corporations, institutions, and organizations that support and benefit our community. I'm your host, Harry Gottlieb. Today we have a very special guest by the name of Dr. Rachel Silverstein, CEO and waterkeeper of Miami Waterkeeper. She's a marine biologist who has spent more than a decade fighting to protect Biscayne Bay from coral reef sewage spills to the future of our coastline, growing Miami Waterkeeper from a one-woman organization into an environmental watchdog team. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. I understand that you started scuba diving when you were 14 years old. How did that happen? Did your father throw you into the deep end of the pool? Tell us about that.
I have always had a fascination with the natural world and all the creatures and critters and all the different ways that they're able to find their way through life and all the different adaptations they have that are really incredible. When I really wanted to see a coral reef, and I feel very lucky that my dad was willing to get scuba certified with me, even though he's a little bit claustrophobic and wasn't super thrilled about it. And I saw a coral reef for the first time when I was 14, and I was just hooked, and I knew that that would be what I would do for the rest of my life. And I feel very blessed that I've been able to have a career where I'm able to still go scuba diving and see the reefs and also fight to protect them. And that's what we do, every day for coral reefs, for mangroves, for our clean water here in Miami that's so critically important.
So the way I understand this is that the most important elements on the planet that we happen to live on, the blue planet we happen to live on, is our air, our soil, and our water.
Of course.
And it doesn't seem like we're the best stewards for taking care of these important elements. What can we do as citizens to take care of all these elements, but especially the water?
Yeah, so critically important, cannot have life without having clean water, for example. And clean water is, in our opinion, what makes Miami, Miami. And Miami is built on beautiful Biscayne Bay. It's our central park. It's our backyard. It's the jewel that we have really built our community around. And it also supports our economy. And the county published a study about 18 months ago showing that Biscayne Bay produces $64 billion every single year in economic output for Miami-Dade County. And it supports the major pillars of our economy: real estate, tourism. About 80% of visitors who come to Miami go in the water while they're here. And also about 80% of residents visit the water at least once a year. So it's this really unifying force in our community. It's got incredible, rare, threatened, and endangered species that call Biscayne Bay home. It had miles and miles of mangroves, of seagrass meadows, full of fish. Visitors who came here for the first time described gin clear water back where you could see straight to the bottom of Biscayne Bay, and turtles, lobsters, all kinds of fish, dolphins, of course, manatees living here. And it's part of what makes Miami so special. And we still see, dolphins and manatees, and there's still seagrass, but we don't realize how much we have actually lost in terms of having clear water. We've lost, over 90% of seagrass meadows from Biscayne Bay because of pollution. We don't have as many commercial and recreational fisheries here in Biscayne Bay because of the loss of the seagrass and the mangrove. We lose the fish because that's where they live. And we even had a terrible fish kill in Biscayne Bay in 2020 when it was really a tipping point in the story of Biscayne Bay, where I think we had never had an event like this before. And it actually almost exactly 6 years ago this week, we woke up and we had water sampling teams, because part of what Miami Waterkeeper does is we go around to over 30 places around Miami-Dade and Broward County. Every single week, we sample the water. Our sampling teams went to Morningside, and they saw a couple dozen dead fish. And they reported it back. And then there was a swimming group that went out of Morningside. And a few hours later, we got a call from them that they had been out swimming in Morningside, and they had noticed they were swimming in thousands of dead fish. And by the end of that day, we had hundreds of reports from all over northern Biscayne Bay of people seeing dead and dying fish washing up on shore, fish gasping for air. And for the next few days, we know that 27,000 fish at least, that's just what we have photos of and that we were able to count and speciate, died in just a matter of days. And what had happened was Biscayne Bay literally ran out of air and didn't have enough oxygen to support life anymore. It became a dead zone.
Is this because of the runoff of the septic tanks, or is this because of the rain that comes from that hits the fertilizers on the coast?
All of the above. So it's a category of pollution called nutrient pollution. And nutrients are nitrogen and phosphorus, things that are in fertilizers that you put on your lawn to make the plants grow. When they get into Biscayne Bay, which is naturally has very, very low nutrients, which is why it was so clear historically, it creates algae blooms in Biscayne Bay, and it can smother seagrass, kill off the seagrass. There's less oxygen because the seagrass isn't there creating oxygen anymore. There's bacteria blooming, and there's algae everywhere. It sucks up all the oxygen. And when water gets too hot, it naturally holds less oxygen too. So in the summer months, it was like teetering on the brink of having no oxygen, and it got so hot and still with all this pollution and algae and bacteria that it literally ran out of air. And that's where we saw all of this wildlife die. And all of a sudden, there were dead fish washing up in canals and on people's yards and on beaches. And it was absolutely horrific. So we sort of sprang into action. We started sampling. We organized the scientific community. We talked to the media, the elected officials, and really wanted to stay focused on the underlying root cause, which is that nutrient pollution. And where is it coming from? It's coming primarily from, as you said, septic tanks. And I'll talk more about each of these, but septic tanks, sewage leaks, stormwater runoff, and fertilizer overuse. And scientists have been warning for years, we're going to have a fish kill. Like, we're seeing all the warning signs. This is how bodies of water die. And it's been well documented by scientists. And now we're seeing these conditions here where we've never seen them before.
So what is Dade County doing about this? And what is the responsibility of or I should say, what is the area that Waterkeeper is responsible for? Is it all of Florida, or is it just Dade County?
So Miami Waterkeeper covers Miami-Dade and Broward counties. And we're looking at three things primarily: clean water. And that covers all the things I just mentioned, all those pollution sources and toxic chemicals, all the way from the Everglades out to the coral reef. So from Everglades, the water is flowing from the Everglades through urban Miami-Dade.
Right.
And while it flows through urban Miami-Dade, it's flowing through what's left of the Everglades in urban Miami-Dade, which are mostly our canal systems now, especially around northern Biscayne Bay, where it's very developed and there isn't a lot of open green space anymore, which is where we saw this fish kill happening, through the canal systems and through the groundwater, which is critically important, to Biscayne Bay, and then out through the inlets and the channels going out to the ocean, where we have our coral reef.
So you test the water. You have a crew that goes out and tests the water, both on land and in the bay, and then you report to various federal and state and community organizations to lobby for them to do something about it. And if they don't, I'm assuming you have attorneys on retainer?
So we have our water monitoring program. So the state has what's called the Healthy Beaches program, and they're monitoring weekly on the beaches. But then we have all of these bodies of water that people are swimming in, diving in, kayaking in, sailing in, that weren't having regular monitoring. So our monitoring program is designed to fill in those gaps. And various municipalities have actually hired us to do this monitoring for them, like the Village of Key Biscayne, the City of Miami, North Bay Village, the City of Fort Lauderdale, for example. And our goal is to get that information out to the public as soon as we get it. Because if you're going to the beach this weekend with your family, you can check our social media or an app called Swim Guide, and you can see red or green. What's the bacteria levels like on a given day? And bacteria levels in water are very dynamic, so they change with the tides, with the days, with the sun, with the weather, whether or not it's just rained. So if we're doing it every week, we can have a pretty good approximation of what the bacteria levels are like in a given week. And we report that to you. We try to match the protocols that the state is using, so we're augmenting their program, and we're providing our data to them, but mostly we're providing our data to the public so that you know whether or not your favorite beach or swimming spot is clean or not. And in Miami and in South Florida generally, the underlying vulnerability of the whole community is our geology. we are all on essentially a Swiss cheese rock.
Or a sponge.
A sponge rock. It's a very, very porous limestone, and the water basically moves on the surface almost the same as it's moving underground sometimes. And there's a famous story about this. And you asked about drinking water earlier. So in the 90s, the county was considering allowing mining close to where they extract our drinking water from the groundwater, because our drinking water comes from the Everglades. It moves through the groundwater in what's called the Biscayne Aquifer underground. They put giant straws essentially and suck the water out of the ground. They treat it, and that's what we drink. So we actually have very high quality drinking water in Miami-Dade County because it's coming from the Everglades system. There are some issues that I can talk about with PFAS and forever chemicals in Miami-Dade's water, but when it's coming out of the ground, it's actually very high quality. And what matters to keeping it high quality is what we're doing with the land around where we get that water from. So there's a protection area around where our drinking water gets extracted from because it's so easy to contaminate. So the county was testing whether or not they could allow mining activities close to where we get our drinking water from. And they wanted to understand just how easy it was to contaminate or how hard it was to contaminate the drinking water supply. So they had a company come in with a red dye, and they put this red dye where the mining would go. And they said, we'll come back in a few days with a special detector to see if any of this red dye got into the drinking water supply. And within hours, people's laundry was turning pink.
Oh, boy.
That's how fast the red dye and how much of it was just taken up immediately into the drinking water supply. So in South Florida, it's critically important. If we want clean water, we have to consider how we're using the land. And the land and the water are really intimately connected. And whatever you're putting on the land is sinking into those holes in the rock and getting into the groundwater. And we're basically have an underground river moving under our feet going towards the bay. And everything is getting dumped towards the bay, the stormwater systems. That's why septic tanks can be so polluting in South Florida, because you're literally sinking waste into the ground and it's leaching into the groundwater, into this moving river going out to Biscayne Bay.
But isn't it supposed to be contained in the septic tank? Isn't that what a septic tank is for? Is to contain this?
So septic tanks work where if you're on a septic tank, and actually I am, because if your whole community is on a septic tank, it's very hard for you to individually hook up. Although together we can advocate for the county to continue to hook up and remove septic tanks, which is, in my opinion, one of the #1 priorities for cleaning up Biscayne Bay, and a commitment the county made to do back in the 1970s that is still not done. So septic tanks work where if you flush your toilet, it goes into a tank on your property. The waste goes into the tank. It fills up the tank. The solids stay and the liquids go over the side into a drain field. You're supposed to have 2 feet of dry ground between the bottom of the tank and the start of the water table. And then the waste that goes into the drain field is supposed to percolate through the dry ground, be cleaned, and then hit the water table and be carried away. Here in Miami-Dade County, with sea level rise, with the groundwater levels increasingly getting closer and closer to the surface and sometimes intersecting with the surface where we get flooding on the surface when it rains, that's what's happening. There is not 2 feet of dry ground anymore. And even when there was, it wasn't really getting cleaned. But now we don't even have that 2 feet of dry land under the septic tanks in most places. And so the waste is going into the drain field and being almost immediately swept away by the groundwater and going into Biscayne Bay and the canals. And that's a major source of both environmental contamination and a source of bacteria that potentially has public health risks as well.
So what's the percentage of homes and offices and hotels that are on septic tank, and what's it going to cost and who's going to pay for it to go to the sewers?
So I will tell you the story of septic tanks in Miami because I think it's quite fascinating. We have about 120,000 septic tanks still today in Miami-Dade County. And normally septic tanks you see in rural areas on like 10-acre farms in the middle of nowhere where there's no sewage infrastructure nearby, not in, like urban centers right next to a pristine or formerly pristine or very fragile body of water like Biscayne Bay. So septic tanks were supposed to be temporary in Miami when they were put in. And post-war, we had a big building boom in Miami, and all these homes went up faster than the sewage lines could be built. And so the county said, okay, build all these homes, and when the sewer lines come, you'll hook them all up. And they built all these homes, they put them on septic, and the sewer lines either never came or they came and the homes were never hooked up. And in the 1970s, the proto EPA came and they said, what's polluting Biscayne Bay? Because Biscayne Bay was in a really bad shape in the 1970s. And they said the number one pollution source they were finding was septic tanks. And so the federal government came and they told Miami-Dade County, don't put any new septic tanks in and get rid of all the ones you have. And Miami-Dade County came up with a plan to remove all of these septic tanks by 1990. And the federal government gave them $500 million. They built the 3 sewage treatment plants we have today. But then built the sewer lines through the communities with septic and built new developments on sewer. So they kind of leapfrogged the communities on septic. And now we have what's called like donut neighborhoods where there's sewer around, but these communities have never been hooked up and are still on septic. And every year that we ignore this problem, the pollution problem gets worse, both for the environment and for public health, as I said, but it also gets more and more expensive to fix it. So what was a $500 million problem in 1972 is now estimated to be a $4.4 billion problem for Miami-Dade County in 2026, or even a few years ago when that number came out. But I think there's a lot we can do if we prioritize this to make that more efficient and to really pick and go in priority order for which septic tanks are most polluting and need to be removed most urgently.
So I have 2 more questions. Number 1, do you see any hope for our future as far as keeping the aquifer and our bay as clean as possible? And number 2, tell us about your event that's coming up soon, and about, last but not least, whether you solicit funds through grants, through donations, and through volunteers.
Absolutely. All great questions. So I absolutely have hope. We know that Biscayne Bay can come back. We know how to do it. There's a plan. This is a solvable problem. We need the funding and the political will to get it done, and we need the communities to support it. Because a lot of these things are infrastructure problems. We need infrastructure investments, and we need plans to get us from here to where we want to go in terms of what order are we going to build things in, and start going after the funding that's available to do that. And I think it's absolutely possible and critically important for the persistence of our community, because we cannot have this many properties without a functioning waste infrastructure in 2026. Same is true of our Turkey Point nuclear power plant that we work on, our sewage treatment plants. All of this infrastructure is being urgently threatened by sea level rise and flooding because it was not built with any of those circumstances and risks in mind.
So are the homeowners responsible for the payment of these sewer lines, or is it the county?
So where this has been done successfully in the past, it has been a layer cake of funding. It's primarily a county project, but where they did it in the Keys, for example, they completely eliminated septic tanks in the Keys over about a decade-long period.
Good for them.
It was everything from federal government, state, county, city, homeowner, all paid some piece of it. And there are a lot of ways to relieve some of the financial burden on individual homeowners. And there are examples of that having been done in the past, even with no financial cost to the transition for a homeowner. So we think that there's a lot of creative ways that we can do this. It is not easy, but it certainly can be done, and other places have gotten it done. And this is a place where it's really urgent to have it happen.
So has Key Biscayne resolved this issue?
Key Biscayne is mostly rid of septic tanks. Miami Beach is mostly rid of septic tanks. There's a few pockets here and there, but about half of the septic tanks in Miami-Dade County are ringing northern Biscayne Bay. This is a problem that is going to have to be addressed, and every year that it's not, it becomes more and more expensive.
So tell us about the event that's coming up very quickly.
So we do an annual event called the State of the Water, and every year there's a different topic that we do a deep dive into. It is a lot of fun. It is at the Rusty Pelican. This year it's going to be on October 15th in the evening. Tickets just went on sale. We're going to be talking about coral reefs. We're going to be talking about a new documentary that's coming out that covers some of our story with coral reef water wins, as we call them, that we've had successfully protecting our coral reefs. There's a great community turnout. There's About 300 people or more usually come, drinks, food, and really interesting. Come to learn about the issues and get more involved in protecting this beautiful place we call home. Would love to see everybody there.
How do people get in touch with you?
We on our website, all of our contact information is there. The tickets are for sale there as well, and I'm happy to answer more questions about any water issues people have. You asked about funding as well.
Yes.
We invite people to join as monthly donors. Right now, if people join as an anchor donor, which is our monthly donor program, we will actually send you a free Miami Waterkeeper hat.
Wow.
We have volunteer events that happen pretty much every weekend. We have an amazing education and outreach team that's really active and out there. You can come kayaking, cleaning up with us. You can restore beaches with us, corals. And then for major donors, $2,500 and up, we consider you a sponsor of State of the Water. And you also are a partner of Miami Waterkeeper. So we have a partnership program, pun intended. And there are really fun, exclusive events and in-water experiences that we offer all year long, like come shark tagging with us, do a coral restoration event with us, sea turtle hatchling releases. We have a partnership celebration. It's a really incredible program, and we're really proud of the partners we've been able to bring in that support the work all year long.
So tell us the website and maybe a phone number.
www.miamiwaterkeeper.org. Our phone number is 305-905-0856. And our email is hello@miamiwaterkeeper.org. The best place to get information about what's going on is also Instagram. We're just at Miami Waterkeeper is our handle on Instagram, and we're most active there. But you can also find us on Twitter, LinkedIn, all these other places too, YouTube.
So do you drink tap water or bottled water?
I try to avoid bottled water at all costs.
Really? Because of the bottle?
Bottled water is tap water in a plastic bottle,
Right.
which both creates waste and it leaches chemicals into the water. So you're drinking microplastics while you're drinking water out of a plastic bottle.
You're happy with the quality of our water, tap water here in South Florida?
So we have high quality tap water, but we, like a lot of other places, but we have it probably worse than other places, is contaminated with something called PFAS, which are forever chemicals, things like in Teflon. They coat anything that's like wrinkle free or non-stick, may have these forever chemicals in it. They're starting to phase them out, but they've basically contaminated everything. And like the name suggests, these are forever chemicals, so they don't biodegrade. And they do have really negative health effects and have been linked to certain kinds of cancers. So I use a water filter on my tap that specifically is designed to remove PFAS. So if you are looking to get a water filter, I recommend looking for one that specifically says that it has been proven to remove those PFAS chemicals.
Are you a sponsor of any water filter companies? You should be.
I am not.
You definitely should be.
So we'll think about that in the long-term plan.
So we're going to wrap this up. We want to thank you so much
Thank you for having me.
being here. It was really a delight to get to know you and to interview you and to give you a tour of our facilities. And we want to thank the audience for tuning in. We want to remind everybody, and we ask you to participate in this if you don't mind. We want to invite everybody to go to their commission meetings to speak out about the water, to speak out about zoning, to speak out about transportation, and all these different things that go on. Hopefully you all went out and voted already today, or did you vote by mail? And last but not least, and we're going to look at this camera right over here, the two of us, don't ask what your community can do for you, but what you can do for your community.
I love it.